Poetry. What is poetry? It's more than just a genre, just another subsection of literature. It's more like a function. It's more of something that touches you deeply or you release in a different way. It shows up when normal language sometimes fails, when you can't automatically go to a person and express what you're really feeling deep inside. That's when poetry helps right there. It's older than books, rules, structures. It's original language. We've always had to use rhythm and story to express and survive and teach and relate. We've always done that. You know, Poetry is like unfiltered thoughts. When you take that pen and you put it to the paper, the thoughts begin unfiltered, pours out onto that paper before logic, before editing, before any structure or explanation. That's poetry right there. It's a place to say where you can't say what you can't say directly sometimes, and it may not even come out perfect. It can be contradicting. You don't have to worry about that. This is how the expression comes out. That's what it is. That's what this piece of work is. However it comes out is what it is. It's not about sounding intelligent or smart, or it's pure expression of what is in that moment of time. It's about telling truth without armor. Poetry is letting emotions move instead of staying stuck. We hold things inside of us, and when you put that pen to the paper and you just let it out, you just let it flow, that's poetry right there. It's almost like journaling. I think it is kind of like journaling. It's the same thing without rhyme structure. It's free flowing if you so choose to write. If you so choose to write that way, you know. Everything doesn't always need closure within poetry. Again, it just is what it is. How that piece comes out, that's just what it is. It organizes your thoughts, your emotion, your pain, your heights, your lows. It takes it and it just puts it together in a different way. When you go back and read it and you see it, and when you listen to it, it just organizes your thoughts in a certain way, right? It gives shape. It gives shape to things. It gives shape to chaos. It gives shape to your good times. So everything doesn't feel overwhelming. Again, back to it being like journaling, really. Grief, heartbreak, shame, joy, all of these things can come out when you put that pen to paper. It holds moments that we don't want to lose. It holds memories. When we go back and look at something we may have jotted down, or when you read something that just triggers a certain place and time. It triggers certain memories, and it touches you in that way. Even moments you don't want to relive necessarily, but you need to understand. It can help with that too. It's like a time capsule. You can return way later, years later, and feel exactly where you were. And you can see resolutions. You can see the good times you had during that time frame, You can see growth. If you wrote something 5 years ago and you go back and read it now and understand how you would be now and even rewrite that, or you can see the growth. It's beautiful. Poetry, it kind of remembers things that your mind tries to forget. With the listener, you know, the listener isn't really passive. If you're feeling the piece, or you feel it, or you're a fan of poetry in general, it's like you're completing the poem with your own life. It's the relatability. It's the extra thoughts that come on, things you can add to the poem without writing where the poem ends. You can go into the poem and edit it to your function of life, right? But it's relatable. It also helps the listener. You're able to say, oh, damn, I thought this was only me. I swore it was only me, but now I see I'm not the only one dealing with this thing. Now I see I'm not the only one who remembers this thing. I'm not the only one who feels this way about these things. That moment of recognition right there is powerful. It reduces isolation. Relatability through writing, it really reaches the same way it does in song form. It does in poetry, in the form of poetry. Once it's heard, it's not only about the poet anymore. It's not only about the poet, it's about the piece and how that message touches the person. It teaches us emotional literacy, right? If I may. You learn how to react. You learn what hurts, what feels good. You learn what you value. Reading or listening to poetry, it can sharpen awareness. It can sharpen awareness, and with all kinds of reading, it trains attention when you're too distracted in a distracted world. You can really tap in and focus on the message that is being written or said. It can motivate. Poetry doesn't scream to do better. It tells you, like, you're still here. It's okay. You're not alone. Let's get to this work and let's be better. It relates the message in a certain kind of way. You understand? Again, come back to relatability. Because we're not the only ones experiencing the things that we write about. Poetry matters, man. Poetry matters in this world. It kind of it slows down time in a world that moves so fast, It slows down time. Poetry is honest. It's not about performance. It's not about performance. It's about honesty. That's what poetry will give you. It demands presence within the moment. It isn't efficient, as in trying to write down something that's perfect. And that's why it works. Again, poetry isn't for everyone. But I believe a lot of people had a moment where they understood poetry. They understood words that were on the paper. They understood words that someone spoke. It touches them in a certain way because it is honest and not performative. Poetry already met you there in the moments where you felt deep about something, or you didn't know what to do, or you felt isolated. This is poetry at its finest. This is how it touches people. This is why poetry is important. Here on this page, I'm going to be sharing poems, reflections. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts with you guys. And I hope that you tap in and listen if you enjoy, if it's relatable, if it starts a conversation, if you understand or if you don't agree with certain words. Come on in. This is what I'm here for. Welcome.